Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Hatha Yoga for Everybody with Jennifer Eubank, Thursdays at 9 o'clock. We are having a very prop-driven practice today, so the more props you have, the better. Strap, blocks, a blanket or two, maybe a bolster. We'll be using the wall or a chair, or I can give you alternatives if you don't have a wall. So first things first, let's go ahead and take a few moments to sit wherever you are and take a few moments to center ourselves. Maybe take some cleansing breaths. Take as many of those as you like. Bringing that sense of satya, that purity, that cleansing nature to your physique. Take a few moments to understand your surroundings, how you fit in with your environment this morning. And when you're ready, how you fit into your body, your vehicle. Scan through your body. Notice what's up today. And include the physical aspects of your body as well as the energetic. The breath, the heart, the thoughts, the emotions. Let's go a few more breaths. And as you're ready, go ahead and glide your eyes back open. We do that each week. And in many ways, it's bringing our Svadhyaya, today's Niyama, into our practice from the get-go. What's going on? Self-reflect. Notice the body, the energies, the thoughts. And that's our focus today. Self-study, self-reflection, which is why I picked a yin style practice, because yin is very quiet, it's close to the earth. We don't hold as many poses, not a lot of movement, and we delve deeply into these poses so that we can become a little bit more introspective. So our first pose is legs up the wall. Legs up the wall. So you can go off camera and go up to a wall space and come up into that position. And you could have your mat at the wall. You could have a blanket for your back, a block for your bum. And if you don't have a wall, you could use a chair or a block. You could do legs up a chair instead of legs up the wall. And legs up the chair, if you recall, you have a chair nice and sturdy, and it's best that the back doesn't get in the way of things, and you sit right up against the chair and you bring the legs up and you lie back. And you can't see my whole body, but you get the gist of that. And if you don't have either of those, you could do a supported bridge, eventually turning that into a supported shoulder. And if you recall, I prefer a blanket for that position. a blanket under the torso, block at the ready. You lift the hips, you roll the blanket up so that it's rolled up against your lumbar spine. You've gotten it out of the way. You put the block where that blanket was, and that's for your sacrum. And then you eventually bring the legs up. And if you're in legs up the chair, you start with the legs on the chair, but eventually you can play with the legs going up in the air. And then, of course, there's the wall version. And you could have a blanket under your torso for this version. Again, you could have a block and you can put it under your bum if you're doing legs up the wall. You have so many options. The main thing is I want us to be in a reclining position on the back with the legs up in the air. So you decide what's going to work for you and have everything you need in that version. And then we'll stay here for probably the first 10 minutes. And as always, the first thing we do in whatever version we pick, we make sure we have everything we need. Our body is responding well to the version that we picked and the props that we're bringing into that version. And then you can start to explore and change things about, go wide with the knees and feet, bend the knees. You could go into a butterfly-like position. You could also have the feet on the wall if you're doing legs up the wall. And as always, moving the feet around will help you engage leg muscles and open up some of these joints. I'm going to come back out, but you stay where you are. We're on the fourth niyama, niyama being personal behaviors, personal habits, how we interact with ourselves. We've already talked about the first one, satya, purity, finding purity in the body, physical purity, what we put into our body and what we don't put into our body, what we surround ourselves with, what are our intentions, are our actions pure? All of those things come under that niyama. The second was santosha, contentment, your ability to find contentment no matter where you are, no matter what's in front of you. And the third last week was tapas, discipline, action, effort, literally heat, which is related to satya, because as we heat and fire up the body, we tend to cleanse the body and purify the body. Farmers do that. They will burn a field and get rid of an old crop to bring up new nutrients in the soil and new growth. That's a form of tapas. And Svadhyaya, today's niyama. Sva means self, adhyaya means lecture, lesson, or reading. So it's literally one's own reading. Study thyself and discover the divine, says the sutra that discusses this niyama. Svadhyaya gives us a chance to truly look at ourselves from the outside in and from the inside out. learning to bear witness to our behaviors, understand how we're being perceived, how we're affecting those around us, even the environment, and how we're affecting ourselves ultimately. Svadhyaya helps us take ourselves out of our egos so we don't get so wrapped up in our egos and bogged down by our needs and wants and desires. And yoga helps us to slow down. Yoga gives us a chance to become more mindful, become more intuitive as we hone these self-reflective skills, understanding more how poses affect us, what it feels like physically to be in these poses, but also what it feels like intellectually, emotionally. So many different ways we can respond to the challenges of our yoga. And how we respond to these challenges give us a chance to see how we respond to challenges off the mat, because they're very similar, especially in this yin yoga. Let's go about 5, let's go 10 more breaths, 10 more breaths. And that'll give you time to maybe do something in your pose that you haven't yet. Maybe you need to attend to some sensation that's going on in your body. Maybe you want to add a little challenge to what you're doing. And also, I want to give you plenty of time to reflect on how your breath is flowing through the pose that you're in, the shape that you're in. Because the breath is very telling. If the breath is choppy and interrupted, that's a sign that we're feeling anxious and maybe uptight and unsettled. Whereas if we learn how to harness our breath, we can control that breath, we can regulate it, and we can thus regulate those emotions and those thoughts. We can even affect our intellect with our breath and help us focus. I'll give you a little bit longer. I just love all of these poses, reversing the energies in our body, turning things upside down. The body loves this. So this is a very purifying pose. Great for your lymphatic system, especially if you brought those feet and knees wide and opened up your pelvic and groin area. If you take the arms overhead and open up the armpits, you'll bring some stimulation to the lymph nodes in your armpits. Maybe do a little bit of neck movement these last few moments. All these things help cleanse your body. The more cleansed the body, the more simple the body, the more you can delve into this idea of Svadhyaya. Uncluttering your body, your thoughts, allows you to delve a little more deeply. So this goes to show you that all of these niyamas and yamas are related, may weave together to form a really beautiful tapestry of life. So we'll go maybe one or two more breaths, coming back to a good base pose. So either just legs straight up in the air if you're on the block, legs back down on the chair if you're on the chair, and legs back in if you're up on the wall. And then when you're ready, we'll bring our feet down off the wall. If you're on the chair, they're already down. And we'll come off our wall, our chair, our block, and land on the side. And you do your best. I don't want to get too involved in that. We've done this before. We've been in an inversion. So you want to come off that pose onto the side for a few moments so you can get used to the legs being back down. And maybe kind of shuffle away from the chair or the wall, what have you. And take another couple of breaths here, reflecting on that whole experience. And then as you're ready, press into the earth to lift back up. And you can come back to your mat, or maybe you're already at your mat. And the next pose, we'll do another classic yin pose, melting heart, one of my favorites. This involves being on the knees. So you may need a blanket under the knees. And I suggest also bringing a block for your head. And the first thing we do is start in a nice table pose. So take your time. Maybe you need a little bit of movement in your table, kind of wriggling things out. And then from your table, your hands start by being, or your wrists are under your shoulders. So for this, we want to bring them forward some. So hands come in front of the shoulders, then the forearms come down. So now your elbows are right under your shoulders. And then bring your head straight down to the block, or maybe you'd rather have the floor. So your hips stay right above the knees. In other words, we didn't lean back like that in the child's pose. Melting heart, for all intents and purposes, is a Sphinx chair. Sphinx table. Close. Sphinx table. So our arms are Sphinx-like and our legs are table-like. But we've brought our head all the way down to the floor or the block. And we want to make sure we're not arching our back. So you can take a little peek at me. I don't want you to be doing this. We don't want any arch in the back. We want the belly drawn in. We want our torso to still be table-like. Flattish, wide, and long. Neutral. A neutral spine. Head protected by the block and the arms. Feet can be close or wide. Melting heart, another inversion, but very different to the inversion that we just did. It's technically a deeper inversion because our head is lower than that heart in this position. And it was only a little bit lower depending on what you did in that first pose. Again, reversing the blood flow, changing things up in the energetic pathways throughout our body, thousands of which exist. Deepening your inhales and lengthening your exhales will help facilitate that fluid action within your body. And paying attention to the sensations in your body, the physical sensations, the energetic ones and also those mindful ones. What comes up for you? It's very telling. Are you focusing on the present moment, or is your mind elsewhere? If you find it drifting elsewhere, do your best to gently guide yourself back to the present moment without judgment, with a loving guiding hand. Do your best to not time travel, to think about the past or the future, or to think about something that isn't right here in front of you. Can you stick with it? We're applying tapas to this pose. Our tapas, our effort, our discipline doesn't always have to be action oriented and movement based. In many ways, Svadhyaya is walking the talk of all of these yamas and niyamas, truly applying them to your life. Let's go 10 more breaths. Honor each sensation, face each sensation, and let it be, and let it gently fade away. Nothing is permanent. Everything is fleeting. Accept your true self deep within. Always here to face these challenges. Now, once again, we've been in an inversion for some time, so we don't want to get up very quickly. We don't want to rush up. So start to press into the earth with the arms, the knees, the feet. Lift the head up. Take a couple of breaths with the head up. Maybe wriggle your hips a little bit. Maybe drum your fingers some. And then when you're ready, pick those forearms back up and bring your hands back in. And now you're back in your table. And you probably want a little bit of release movement. Go for it. What do you need? How do you feel after that pose? What was it like for you? Were you bored? Were you content? Were you able to find your santosha in that longly held pose? How you find your santosha is up to you and telling. Okay, so now we'll use the wall again. Well, you don't have to use the wall, because if you'd rather be right in front of your device, I understand. So you could do this on your mat, feel free. What we'll do is dragonfly. So let's have everything nearby. A blanket, blocks, and your strap. As we'll do a few things from this position. So knowing that if you'd rather have a wall up against your back for some extra support, go for it. You could, as always, be sitting on a blanket for extra support. Dragonfly, our legs are extended out in front of us and they're a little wideish. Wide feet, wide knees. You could have the knees slightly bent. You could have blocks under the knees. And we want a nice, strong foundation and a nice, strong torso working together to keep you upright, to keep you stable, to allow you to find a nice, tall posture without drooping. We don't want our head and our shoulders in front of our bodies. You can tell when somebody is sad or not present when they're doing something like this. See if you can invoke a sense of presence and optimism in your posture. And we'll go a few more breaths being upright. I forgot to mention you can keep your socks on for, I think, all of today's practice. So from here, let's bring the hands out to the sides. Kind of a seated mountain dragonfly pose. Tent-poled fingers, hands in line with your sits bones. And then what we'll do is some crescent moons. We'll do one on each side, and we'll stay in these positions for some time. So if you want, you could have block on either side for your hand. That's up to you. Or you could have those tent-fold fingers, but if you'd rather have more support, go for it. We bring the arms up overhead. We bring one hand down, it doesn't matter which, to either the block or the floor, and we use that leverage to reach and extend our spine and then start to slowly curve. We don't want to go into this curve really fast. We don't want to collapse into it. We want to take our time easing into this shape. And as you ease into it, you might need to change things. Maybe change something about your hand, your legs, the arm up above. Maybe open up that shoulder a little bit more. If you feel the shoulder come forward, is there some way you can open it up a little bit? That's where that wall can come in handy. Try to keep your joints soft, especially the wrists, the elbows, and the shoulders. And avoid letting the head drop. We want the head to be in line with the neck and the rest of the spine, because the spine is curving. So the head is part of that. So if we let that head droop forward, that can be a sign of many things. Simply just being not aware of what we're doing. Paying attention to all of these little tiny positions and nuances of each can be telling us to, do we pay attention to what's going on around us? Are we really listening and seeing? This is the value, one of the many gifts of our yoga. To practice to be better human beings. Let's go another breath or two. How far? Where has your curve gone? Are you still good and centered in the middle? Do you still have that good foundation? That's really important to make your way back up. So when you're ready, press into the earth to bring the body back. Press in the earth to bring that arm back down. And let's take 3 breaths because we were there for some time. Notice how the side of your body whose arm was outstretched, how does that side feel? And compare it to the other side. Really listen to the differences and the nuances of that action. And this helps hone your interoception skills, your ability to know what's going on inside your body. Let's go one more breath. And if you need to wiggle something out, change something about your position, go for it. Take care of those needs at the get-go. You want a good foundation, a good base from which to work. And then when you're ready, we'll do the other side. Strong body, strong awareness, breath work helping us to form our pose. Finding a good connection with the floor and the block if we're using it. Gently curving, bit by bit. So our interoception skills, that's our ability to understand what's going on inside us. Our proprioception skills, our ability to understand how our body relates to the space around us. And yoga helps refine your proprioceptive skills. So, is your head up or have you let it droop? Is your head in line with your neck and your spine? Is your arm coming forward, or is it also in line with that curve in your spine? Because you want that curve in the spine to be mimicked and carried on by that arm. Couple more breaths. What's it feel like on this side? Are you rooted and centered in your foundation, or are you kind of lifting off of one hip and sit bone to reach? We don't want that. We don't want to be off kilter. We want to move from a place of strength and resilience. Let's go 3 more breaths here. And when you're ready to come back, remember the whole body assists. So press the legs into the floor, press the hand into the block or the floor, and let that body kind of float back up and almost effortlessly float that arm back down. And take a couple of breaths and notice how you feel. Notice the side of the body that we just stretched. Try to stay still at the end of these poses before moving on to something else so that you can reflect on what just happened. Again, refining your mindful skills, your ability to notice what's going on inside, your interoceptive skills, not to mention your listening. Let's kind of shake it out, tap it out. Let's get our straps, and you might need other props. You might want a pillow or blocks, because what we'll do next will be doing a caterpillar pose, which means our legs are closer together. Dandasana, staff pose, but this is yin, so we're calling it caterpillar, so it's not quite as strict, so that we can go a little deeper. This is one of the elements of our yin poses. We take our strap and we put the strap in, the center of the feet are in the center of the strap, and we'll find a good caterpillar, and then we'll bring ourselves into a fold. So as we go into the fold, the strap might be enough support, but if you feel like you'd like to land on a bolster or some pillows or blanket blocks, you could put them on the leg there. the legs. Notice how I said leg, because it's almost as if one leg, because they're close together. So we'll take a few more moments getting our props right, getting things ready, being prepared, being good and grounded and rooted. Chakras come up in our niyamas and yamas. Let's go 3 more breaths. Nice posture building skill, pose. The better our posture, the better we can breathe. The better we can breathe, the more we stoke that sense of optimism, not to mention clarity that supports a good self-study. So from here, we'll go into that forward fold. Try to keep the action simple. Hinge at the hips. So I didn't say bring the head forward or hunch the shoulders and bring your head down. All I said is hinge at the hips. So see if you can keep the action simple and not excessive. Remember brahmacharya? We don't want a lot of excess, a lot of clutter to our fold. It's a simple hinging. And as we hinge, our bellies and our pelvis get closer towards our thighs. Whatever's on the thighs, blocks, pillow. Again, we want to go slow. Take your time, avoid rushing. Keep just enough engagement in the muscles to keep you strong, stable, and able. Keep things soft so that you keep that sense of fluidity, flexibility, adaptability, rising to the challenge and the changes. Take your time. When you're as far as you want to go, that's a good time to drop the head. You might already be there. You can pause every now and then, spend a few breaths in a pause, because that might help you go deeper. How are you responding? Are you rushing? Are you reacting to things? Can you change those reactions which are more and less harmful? Ahimsa. We don't want to harm ourselves. Non-harming, that's at the root of all of these yamas and niyamas. Let's go a little longer here. Let's go 5 more breaths. Now we've been here for a while too, so we don't want to fly up suddenly. First of all, we're going to press into the legs. We're going to press our hands into the legs and strap, or maybe the hands are more on the floor. Use the strap leverage, the strength of the legs, and hinge back up. Trying to keep your spine neutral as you come back up so that you're not hunching forward as you come back up. Take your time, and once you're up, can you avoid any urge to fix your hair, your clothes? Can you just be in the moment? I'm dying to move my hair out of my face, but I'm not going to. Release that strap when you're ready, and then maybe fix your hair and clothes. Just little things like that can be very telling and growth building. Kind of shake it out. Okay, so now I found a little fuzz there. Let's do Sphinx pose. So we have options. Sphinx pose, as you know, one of my favorites. Really good pose to reflect. You could be at the wall and do a wall version and have your legs up the wall while you're in your Sphinx, or you could be away from the wall. It's up to you. I'm going to do the wall version so that you can see, but I can also shift out of that pretty easily so you can understand. And we've been in this pose so many times. As always, you have options. You could have a blanket under your pelvis. This is a back bend, so we want to make sure our legs and our glute muscles are there for us. We start in a table pose, very much like that melting heart. Then we bring the hands forward, we bring the forearms down. So again, the shoulders are over the elbows, and we use the muscles to lower the body onto the pelvis. And I have started with the feet up the wall. Can you see my feet there? Again, you don't have to have the feet up the wall. You can have the feet right behind you. And the feet can be wide or the feet can be close together. I will ask you, though, to make sure that your shoulders and your elbows are under your shoulders. And I'm going to get back up because my configuration is not there for me. I didn't build a good foundation. I'm right on the floor and I need more mat. So you got to take care of those base knees. If you don't, you might find yourself suffering and struggling through a situation. And that's really telling, because you might find yourself doing that in life too. Struggling in situations when you had options to take that struggle away. So remember, in your Sphinx pose, I'll show you from the side from just a moment. You can be up pretty high in your Sphinx, or you can be pretty low. What I do ask is that if your neck and head are tired, you don't drop that head. We don't want the head dropped in our Sphinx. We want to lift to the heart and thereby the head. So if you want more support, bring your arms further out. You could take a block and put it under your chin. So your head and neck have support, but there's still a lift in the heart. There's still a slight extension in your spine, which means you're in a back bended position. We're low to the ground, our pelvis, our thighs are on the ground. That can be very comforting, grounding, very healing. This pose, especially if you find the right version, can be very soothing to your nervous system. So if your nerves are up, you've picked a version that's not quite right for you. Do your best. I'm going to come back out. so that I can check on things, time and what have you. We're doing pretty well. I'll read a quote that's in keeping with today's theme. Sometimes you study the way by casting off the mind. Sometimes you study the way by taking up the mind. Either way, study the way with thinking and study the way not thinking. I'm going to read that again. By the way, I just picked up this book yesterday and started reading about the Yamas and Niyamas and it. So I don't know who this person is. Ehai Dogan. I'll look that up later. This is improv. Usually I would look up the quoter. Sometimes you study the way by casting off the mind. Sometimes you study the way by taking up the mind. Either way, study the way with thinking and study the way not thinking. And we all have gone through periods of self-study, Svadhyaya, self-improvement, New Year's. That's Svadhyaya, celebrated, change, improvement. And you can use these yamas and niyamas to bring about this change and improvement, purifying the body, paying attention more to what you're eating and drinking, being more active based, but also taking rest time when you need it. The first step towards self-improvement and self-refinement is looking at ourselves honestly and objectively. And on the yoga mat, there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. Face yourself objectively, observationally, without judgment, with compassion and understanding. Let's go 5 more breaths in our pose here. So find a version, maybe quiet it, a little bit more time, deepening and lengthening either half of the breath. And what arises, what lingers, what fades away. And as you're ready, start to come back to natural breath. And let's make our way into a crocodile pose for a few moments. You might even already be there, and that's fine. Or you might be so low to the ground that your crocodile takes very little action. Bent elbows, stacked hands, forehead on top of the hands. Maybe wriggle your hips a little as you bring the feet wide. And let's stay here for 5 breaths. And see if you can take your gaze between your eyebrows, your third eye. And your third eye can help you with your intuition, your ability to look deeply and understand who you are, what makes you tick, what makes you behave the way you do, and what makes you respond the way you do to challenges and also to pleasantries of life. Do you indulge yourself too much with certain things? Again, this isn't a time for you to beat yourself up. It's just a time for you to go, maybe I need a little bit of work. And then when you're ready, start to lift back up, and you undoubtedly want some movement. Let's lift up into a table pose and do a little bit of table work. And if you need a quick nature break or something like that, and we'll get ready for our last pose. We have just enough time for this. We will do Supta Pada Gustasana on either leg. And then, because this has been a very low-key, quiet practice, we'll end with just like a couple of moments of Shavasana. So you might need a blanket, a block, and you will need a strap. So knowing that, maybe have them all nearby. And this is done on the back. So whatever you need up top, whatever movement you need, go for it. And as you're ready, we'll lie back with the knees bent, feet on the floor. Do that so you don't strain your back as you lie back. Being methodical, step by step, and listening to all these cues this week can be very telling. You know, so yoga is one big Svadhyaya session every week. Okay, so I'll show you briefly. We start with the knees bent, feet on the floor. Again, a blanket and a block nearby. I'll show you from an angle because I think that's a little easier. And what we'll do first is we'll start on the right leg and we'll put the foot in the center of the strap, and left leg can be bent or it can be extended, whatever makes you feel most grounded. And we'll spend a little time up here with some movement, and then eventually we'll open that leg out. We want to make sure that we don't roll into it. We keep the left hip on the floor as the right leg goes out, and we'll spend some time there, maybe some movement, and then we'll bring the leg back up, switch hands, use the same leg, and then we'll bring it across the other side of the body and put a little bit of twist in it. And then we'll do the same thing on the other leg. So first things first, have everything nearby. Right leg up in the strap. Do a little bit of foot movement, maybe some circles, maybe with just the foot, maybe the whole leg. Kind of get those joints open. And then when you're good and ready, make sure the left side of the body is there for you. So I suggest putting the left arm on the floor and keeping the left long leg straight, strong, so that you can open the right leg out. You're opening up the right hip. This is a very complex sequence because we're doing a lot of different things here. You know, did you get yourself ready? Are you rushing? Are you listening? Are you keeping things stable? Are you paying attention to each iteration of your journey? Or are you drifting somewhere else? Do what you can to stay here. When you get as far as you want to go, you have options. You could put movement. You could do a little bit of circular motion in your leg or just the foot. You could also pull on the strap gently so that the foot comes closer to your head. You also can put your hand on the left hip to keep that left hip good and rooted. And I haven't mentioned the block yet because I don't use the block, but you do have the option of having the block under your leg. So if you want more support, you could do that. Ooh, I like that. Ah, now see, that was very telling for me. I never do it, and then I tried it, and I discovered, you know what? Ugh, me likey. How's the breath flowing? Let's take about 5 more breaths. Remember, you can come out sooner because you know what we're going to do, but you can also linger because this hip opening action is really nice. It's very popular. We hold a lot of tension and angst in our hips. So when we work through this physically, we tend to work through that stuff emotionally. When you're ready, shore up the left side of the body to bring the right leg back. Make it nice and strong. That's what I mean by shoring up. And then you take the strap with the left hand. Now the right arm goes out to the side to give you some foundation and leverage. You can even press that hand and that arm into the floor as you bring the leg across to the left. And you get a nice outer hip stretch, a nice IT band stretch. Our gallbladder meridian is along here. So this can help with gallbladder issues, digestion. You could take the block and put it on the other side if you desire. Movement. You can look over the opposite shoulder and feel free to have the knee bent. It doesn't have to be extended. It can be bent. Play around with it and feel what sensations are like, and notice how you respond. And let's go about 5 more breaths here. And when you're ready to come back, make sure you get the body ready. Don't just fly back up. Position the body, strengthen the body, press into the earth. Use that strap to bring that leg back up. And let's keep that foot in the strap and do one more thing. Now take the strap again with your right hand and make it so the right foot, the sole of the foot, is facing the ceiling. And then bend the right knee. And as you bend the right knee, bring the leg sort of out to the side there. So you're going into a half happy baby, half saddle, this is called. Left leg can be bent or it can be straight, extended. And you get a nice hamstring stretch in this right leg. And you could put movement into it. You don't have to be still the entire time. And we'll go about 10 more breaths here. You can move your head back and forth. Keep that breath flowing. Avoid holding your breath. That's a bad habit that we all can get into during times of stress. And that makes the stress harder on us. Are we able to use the resources that are available to us to get through these challenges? Now, if your left leg is straight, go ahead and bend it so the foot is on the floor. And then we'll go another breath or two. And then as you're ready, release the foot out of the strap and bring that foot back down to the floor. So both knees are bent, both feet are on the floor. And take a few breaths. Notice the two hips, the two hip joints, the two legs, the two sides of the pelvis, even the lower back and the bone. Do they feel different? That's honing your interoception skills, your ability to feel what's going on inside the body. Let's do the other side. Supta Padangusthasana. Hand to foot pose. So the closer the hand is to the foot, the more leverage you're going to have. So if the hand is really far away, that you'll get a little slackness with that strap. But everybody's arms and legs are different. What do you need? Do a little bit of movement. Take your time. Right leg can be straight or extended. And after a little bit of movement to get that joint ready, start to bring it out to the left. Slowly but surely, keeping the right side good and grounded, giving you a good foundation to explore. You're safe, but you're also curious. And you're attentive in this curiosity. You have options to make this a positive experience. You have options to make this a more challenging experience. How does this side feel in comparison to the other? That's always an element we want to include when we're doing one side and then the other, because that's very, very telling. Remember, you can do movement, you can put more challenge, and we'll go a few more breaths, opening out that left hip. Ooh. You can linger longer. You could do those foot circles. Remember, the knee could be bent at any time. I like to bend it, frankly, when I bring it back up. Because if it's straight, I don't know, that strains me more. And then we'll spend a little time in the center before we start to bring it over to the other side of the body. Now my hip wants my leg to be very bent as I bring it over, because my hip is not ready for an extended leg. So I want to listen to my limitations. I want to honor those limitations. I don't want to cause harm to my body. Ahimsa, non-harming. Satya, truthful, honest. That applying those ideas takes effort and discipline. Tapas. Nice outer hip stretch. We'll stay a few more breaths here. Remember, you can look over the opposite shoulder to bring even more of a twisted configuration to your shape. A little bit of movements. When you are ready to come back, bring the head back so the head is neutral, and get the body ready. And use the body and the strap, use those mechanics to bring you back. And then we'll spend some time in that half happy baby. Sole of the foot is facing the ceiling as we bend the knee and bring the hip out a little. I won't be able to go as far on this side, and you'll probably notice something in your experience. Maybe you want movement, maybe you want stillness, maybe it's very similar to what you did on the other side. Let's go a few more breaths here. You can linger longer. You can come out sooner. When you are ready to come out, try to bend the right leg so that the knee is bent, the foot is on the floor. And then you can release the strap and bring that bent leg back down. Now both feet are on the floor, both knees bent, two-legged table. How do you feel? What's going on inside your body physically? Can you feel remnants of the poses that we've done today? Maybe your breath is flowing a little bit more easily after we've created all this space and we're so attentive to our breath. Let's stretch out for a Shavasana period with whatever supports you want, with whatever movement you like to wriggle in and settle in. Support if you so desire. And again, we'll just stay here for a few moments, reflecting on the practice, reflecting on the remnants, the impressions. What's it like to be you now? Let's go a few more breaths. And as you're ready, start to slowly deepen your breath, build on the breath, build on the energy, awareness around you, taking movements to bit by bit come back to that two-legged table. Couple breaths in each stage of your Shavasana dismantling. Try to do this each week so you're not rushing through the last part of your practice. You're still giving it the attention that it deserves and the attention that you deserve. You're more likely to notice the effects of the practice once you're up, and you're more likely to return to the practice. And we'll take just a few breaths in a seated position. Today's mudra is called Sakshi Mudra. And what we do is we bring our hands into prayer hands, but then we bend the base knuckle to open up the hands. And then we bend the thumbs down into that structure. See that? Mm-hmm. So you can see through. So this is reminiscent of our looking through to ourselves. Sakshi Mudra, the gesture of witness consciousness for cultivating self-study, for cultivating Svadhyaya. Hold that just above your belly button, your solar plexus, your seat of power, will, commitment, tapas, determination, lifted heart, shoulders soft. Let's take 3 more breaths. And then release that. Anjali Mudra, may you be safe, may you be happy, and may you be free from suffering. Namaste. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for coming. It's okay if you can't come from time to time. That wasn't a judgment.